The IMG Roadmap is the only podcast dedicated to coaching international medical graduates in success blueprints for this unique pathway. I am Dr. Nina Loom, your host, a previous IMG turned hospital medicine physician, healthcare administrator, speaker, and coach. I empower, encourage, and equip you with actionable steps that you can take towards the residency position of your dreams.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the IMG Roadmap podcast. Now, I don't know where you're listening from, maybe Spotify, maybe Google Podcast, maybe Apple Podcasts, but I want you to take a moment and leave us a review if you've been enjoying this podcast. I know so many of you have sent me DMs on Instagram telling me how it's beneficial for you, and I want it to reach as many IMGs as possible. This is a unique free tool that encourages and empowers you on your journey. So don't keep it to yourself anymore. I'm inviting today Dr. Sherley Chhibber. She's an incoming PGY1 internal medicine resident, and I'm so excited to have her on the podcast today. Welcome, Dr. Chhibber. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm good.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to have you. We've had to reschedule your episode a few times, and I'm so happy that we finally got to record because I know that you have a wealth of information to share with us today, so I'm really excited.
Yeah, I'm happy to do this too.
Okay, great. So just tell us a little bit about your medical education background, maybe where you're from, what makes you an IMG, and really give us a little bit about your IMG story.
Mm-hmm. So I did my medical school from Rajasthan in India, and then I graduated in 2019. And I have been on this USMLE journey for a very long time. I started preparing for my step 1 in 2017, and then took it in 2018, and then CK step 2 CS in 2019. And I applied in 2019 for the 2020 math cycle, but unfortunately, I couldn't get any interviews. I was not ECFMG certified. I did not have my medical school degree. So I did not have any interviews. I went unmatched. And looking back, I think my application was really weak. I did not know how to portray my achievements on paper. And I feel as an IMG, that's one of the problems that majority of us face, that how to write stuff down in your application and how to really make your CV shine. So what I did was I got to know that I was not matched. And then from March, April of 2020, I started watching some YouTube videos and following many people on Instagram. And then Twitter has been very helpful for me. So that really gave me a perspective on how to write stuff down in the application, like what's the correct way, because it's just an empty block and they give you all the space to write about yourself and just you don't know how to do it. So I think your podcast has been really helpful in that, and also YouTube videos for the CV, and that strengthened my application a lot. And then I reached out to many people on Instagram, how to write my personal statement and how to just put stuff down in the application. And I found that all of them were very open to it. They are very helpful in all these things. And I think people should do that more often. They should make use of these social media because it's a free resource. And you just, go on it and there is a wealth of knowledge there. And I know that, most of it won't pertain to you. So you have to just pick and choose what you have to leave out and what you can add to you. And I use Google. I think Google is the most powerful tool right now. And you just Google like frequently asked questions during interviews. And then, the skills required as an internal medicine resident or surgery resident, and you try to mold your achievements according to it. And I think that maximum advice is repeated. So you know that this is the tried and tested thing, but you always find something unique that every person tells you. So what I found was that customize your personal statement according to the program. So I went on each and every program's website and I would read if they have any specific requirements that they would like me to add in my personal statement. And that's really helped me shine. Yeah. So, and also, I think if you spend time looking up things, if you spend time perfecting your CV, it really shows in your application and it really tells the program that you really want this and you've put in a lot of effort. So I think that is also one thing that helped me through this journey and helped me match the second time.
Thanks so much. I mean, you already started giving us all the pearls right there. And then we said, thank you so much. So let's go into your story. And so you graduated from a medical school in India. Can you tell us a little bit more detail about your school and at what point you took your medical exams in relation to being a student? Like, were you still enrolled in your medical school? What year was it? Because I get this question often from other students who are listeners of the podcast, and they don't know when is the best time for them to prepare for exams and which exam to take first. So as a person that graduated from a school in India, which is actually I have a lot of listeners in India and in Pakistan also. And so let's give them some perspective as to what part of your journey did you start your USMLE prep and when did you take it?
So I think after my final year, because like if you're doing medical school in India, after your final year, you have to do 1 year of compulsory internship to graduate. And I think that's the best time to prepare for step one because you have already finished all your requirements, like the studying portion of it. So that really helped me with my step one preparation because it's all that is asked in your exam. And then I took my final year exam in 2017, and that's when I started studying for USMLE Step 1. And I took about a year for that, and I took my Step 1 in 2018. And yeah.
Yeah, and do you mind sharing about your performance on the test and maybe how that sequeled into Step 2 CK?
Yeah, so actually, I did not have great scores in Step 1. I had average scores. And I think that's because this was the first time I was taking an exam like that, which was so demanding in the preparation. And also, it's a 7-hour exam. So it was not at all easy for me to do that. And I feel that I lacked the knowledge the first time, how to go about the exam, not the study material, but how to tackle the exam day. So I feel that made the difference in my performance. And yeah. And then I think TK is the time when I was a bit more prepared for the exam day. And that showed in my score too. I had a 20-point jump from my step one. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So congrats on your 20 point improvement on your score. That's great.
Yeah.
Now, in speaking about preparing for the exams and doing them, especially when you're already still in medical school, do you think that the internship year of the Indian medical educational system is the best preparation for it? Or do you recommend for anyone to take it while they're still in medical school before that internship year?
I think, in my opinion, do not to take it before the internship year because the final year also adds to that step one preparation. Final year is like tie up of all the things. Like the first year, second year, third year, it all ties up in the final year. So I suggest study for the final year nicely and then take your step one during internship year because that's when you have the background of your basic medical school knowledge and then you start studying for step one and then it all amalgamates. So that works.
It's almost as like we say, hindsight is 2020. It's almost as though when you have all of that behind you and you finally, it's like everything makes sense now to where if you've been studying in a different educational system and you're moving to the US educational system, you get a 360%.
Absolutely.
So can you tell us a little bit more about your USMLE prep and performance?
So I started preparing for my step one when I was in my medical school. I had my final year exam in 2017. And after that, we have a compulsory 1 year internship that we have to do before graduating. So during that time, I was preparing for my step one. And that really strengthened my the base because I had already completed my med school. So I had like a very good base to start my step one preparation with. But I would say that I did not score really well on my step one because this was the first time I was doing it. It was so demanding, not just the preparations, but the test day too. It's a 7 hour exam. So I did not have any test day strategy, and I think that costed me a lot. Yeah, and after that, I learned from my mistake and I tried to improve my CK score. And it did show in my performance because I had a 20-point score jump in my CK. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you did
Hmm.
actually share that you went unmatched the first time around. Why do you think that
Yeah.
happened?
Yeah. So what happened was I had my electives in 2018 and 2019, I think three of them. And then I sort of thought that let's just try applying the cycle because I did not have my ECFMG certificate and I did not even have my med school degree. So I did not even know how to write in the application, how to make my CV, and I just tried it. And that costed me a lot because I did not get even a single interview and I went unmatched. And I don't think anything is coincidence because that helped me improve a lot during my second cycle. And yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Nothing's coincidence, but it's
Hmm.
good that when you look back, you can say, hey, this is what was missing. My ECFMG
Yes.
certificate was missing. My
Hmm.
medical school diploma was yet to be achieved. So those are
Hmm.
things that, hey, if I look back, I can take the responsibility for it. Because I find
Yeah.
that a lot of IMGs that maybe go unmatched, they always never seem to want to take responsibility for the role that they play in it, as far
Hmm.
as saying, what are some things that I can improve? How can I improve them? Okay, I can do XYZ. I can make this better by doing such and such. So I
Hmm.
like that you took ownership of that and you
Hmm.
actually decided, hey, I'm not going to just let this go by. I'm going to come back the second time and
Hmm.
be prepared and have my
Yeah.
diploma, have my certificate. I actually
Hmm.
find that a lot of IMGs who are graduates of medical schools, of non Caribbean medical schools, that ACMH
Hmm.
certificate makes a big difference because for those who apply without it, they get fewer interviews than those who apply with it. Just because some
Absolutely.
programs definitely would tell you must be ECFMG certified, others would say
Hmm.
must be eligible, but it's the safest zone for programs when you come in with your certificate. Like that's been my
Yeah.
observation. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely, because having that ECFMG certificate makes you a complete applicant. And programs, they are ready to take that risk on a complete applicant rather than going for somebody who has something missing in their application.
Right, right. I always tell IMGs, especially non-Caribbean medical students, that
Hmm.
hey, the ECFMG certificate is sort of like your verification process for coming into train in the US. So
Yes.
when you have that with you on hand, what that says is you've been verified by the authorities and
Hmm.
you are someone that's qualified to begin residency training.
Hmm.
So every program obviously wants to have the safest student in their class
Yeah.
because you don't want somebody who maybe for one reason or the other matches and can't start residency because then they have to look
Yeah.
for a new person to take your position. So that's
Hmm.
why it's always best to come in on the front end well prepared as opposed to expecting programs to understand your situation, especially
Hmm.
if you're a non-Caribbean student, because you have all reason to be able to get your certificate beforehand since all your
Yeah.
medical school was completed outside of the US. So I definitely think that that's a strong point that you listed out for us. So
Yeah.
can you give us just general tips for IMGs who are starting out and just feel overwhelmed, overburdened? What are some things that worked for you and what are some things that you recommend?
Hmm. So during my first cycle, I feel that my application was really weak. I did not know how I can portray myself, how to portray my application, how to portray my achievements on paper. And I used Google, I used Instagram to follow so many people. And I feel that your podcast helped me a lot in that too. And I watched some YouTube videos on how to go about writing your application, because you cannot go to the program and tell them your achievements. It has to be on the paper. And it's just a blank box, and you are responsible for putting the right things in it. So I feel that really helped me shine this time, knowing what to write and how to write it, and how to be professional about it, and how to demonstrate that I have the right skills for the job. So I use Google for that. I used to just type in the skills required for internal medicine resident, or if somebody is applying for surgery, they can choose that. So, and I used to pick those skills up and try to mold them in my CV, and that helped me. And I feel that being clueless was the mistake that I did the first time. You have to be absolutely prepared when you go in, because I hope that nobody goes unmatched, because the first time when you do it, it has to be right. And that is something that people need to know, that the most powerful tool right now is social media, and it's free of cost. It's open to everybody. You just go in, read what people have written, just pick and choose what applies to you, because there is a wealth of knowledge out there. And you will find some advices are repeated by everybody. So those are the tried and tested methods and tried and tested tips that you can use and never go wrong. But there is always something unique that somebody tells you. And for me, that was to customize my personal statement according to program. So I used to go on each and every program's website to read if they have any requirements that they want me to add in my personal statement. It generally is about how you got to know about our program. So that really made me a different applicant, because many people don't do that. And programs, they really value these things, that if you go to their website and read about their requirements. And I think that spending time perfecting your CV and application, that really shows, that really makes the program, they really pay attention to your application then. And they know that you are very responsible and very serious about it. And they're looking for those people. So that really makes an impression on them. And I think a program coordinator also told me that about my application, that it was really different. So I feel that all my hard work really paid off in the end.
Yeah, that is awesome. Definitely hard work definitely pays off, but also getting advice from credible sources is really
Mm-hmm.
important. And that's why, thanks for the shout out for the IMG Roadmap podcast, because that's one of the reasons why I do what I do
Mm-hmm.
here, is to give IMGs actually practical tools that they can use. And for those who
Yeah.
need more help, I actually offer that for them within the IMG
Mm-hmm.
Roadmap course also. But
Yeah.
that's just because there's so much information out there. If you're not taking the time and diligence to sieve through everything and figure out how
Mm-hmm.
to use it to your advantage, then you're really missing out. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
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 So you applied into internal medicine residency. How many programs did you apply into?
I think I applied to about 130 programs, and I customized my list to my scores, to my, like, if my graduation year, my, like, if they take IMGs or not. And I feel this is the most important thing that you need to do. You don't want to spend your money just applying to random programs who are not even sponsoring you visa. So I feel that is something that you need to take time out, because it's not just about the scores now. You have your scores, well and good, but it's not all about the scores. You have to be smart at each and every step of this journey to know what to do next.
Right, absolutely. And then let's talk a little bit about, so you applied to those many programs. How many interviews did you get and how many did you go for?
I think I got 3 interviews, all from the programs that I was really looking forward to. And since it was a virtual interview, I attended all of them.
Awesome, awesome. And you
Yeah.
ranked all three and matched into, it sounds like all three were places that you were very happy to go train at. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So as a visa applicant, let's talk about that a little bit. As a visa applicant, what challenges did you experience because of being a visa applicant?
I think, first of all, the major hurdle that we face is that we cannot apply to all the programs. So we have to tailor ourselves to the list of programs that only sponsor J1. And I feel after that, it's pretty like till the time you get matched, there is nothing that is different from a person who already has, like, who do not need a visa and people who need visas. But I think after the match, you have to go through a lot of paperwork before coming to US. So that is something that a visa requiring IMG should keep in mind.
Right, right, absolutely. I went through the visa process too, so I remember
Mm-hmm.
all about that paperwork. I mean, the paperwork doesn't end. You know, for residency, you get a break because it gets renewed every year, and then you finish and you have to either do a fellowship or, go into the
Yeah.
workforce, and then you have to get a
Mm-hmm.
waiver, and it just
Mm-hmm.
never ends, that paperwork. But at least someday you get your green card and all of that is behind you. Yeah, yeah. And it is possible. For those that are wondering, it is possible. I did get a green card through this whole J1 visa waiver
Mm-hmm.
process. It's a lot of hard work and paperwork, but it's possible.
Wow,
So
congratulations.
yeah, thank you, thank you. That was actually right before the pandemic that happened, like at the
Ah.
end of
Mm-hmm.
2019. I
Mm-hmm.
got it, and then I was like, oh my god, I have a green card now. I can travel. And then the next thing, it was coronavirus,
Oh no.
worldwide pandemic. But yeah,
Yeah.
it is possible, guys. Don't
Mm-hmm.
relent. Okay. So let's
Yeah.
talk a little bit more now about just some final, because we're about to round up the episode, some final tips and tricks that you think that IMGs should incorporate as they look into, for example, the 2022 match.
I feel that this year is also going to be a virtual interview season. So I feel that the most basic thing is you are at your home. Okay. So just prepare the most that you can for the interviews. You are in your comfort zone. You don't have to travel. So put all of that time and energy in preparing for the interviews because those are make or break it. Even if people get interviews invites, there is no guarantee that you're going to match. So put all your energy into preparing for interviews. And there are so many resources out there. Just explore them and make use of it is what I did. And I would say that that really helps. And when you're sitting in front of your screen and when you're talking to the program director or other faculties, be confident because if you're very well prepared, you are going to be confident. And it's not, if I can do it, I would say with average scores and no connections, most important, I did not have any contact, no connections in US. I did it all on my own. So I feel that people can do it too. Everybody who's out there listening, they can do it too.
Absolutely. I believe that every IMG who's listening can do it too. Can you tell
Mhm.
us where they can find you on the internet? Like for those who are listening, I want to connect with you. How can they connect with you?
So I am on Instagram as Dr. Chips, and I also have a blog where I have written my whole math journey, and I've also written about personal statement, and I'm planning to write more articles about letters of recommendation and also interview tips and tricks.
Awesome. All right. So you send us that information and we can share that
I will. Yes.
with our members that are listening.
Mhm.
All right. Very well. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I'm sure that the germs that you've shared with us are going to be valuable and they'll still reach people in the way that they need to hear it.
Thank you so much for having me. It was very nice inspiring other IMGs to do what I have done.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.